are back. Excited.
Yeah.
Take two.
Yeah, no, we didn't do this beforehand. Not
My
at
mic
all.
was on, I swear.
Yes, it was.
The gang is back together.
Look at us.
Oh, we're doing it. Look at that.
And they brought us snacks. This
Look
is
at this.
beautiful. And a cutting board, which is just a little fancy.
That
than
was
we used to.
Jillian.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's actually had things to do since 8. She hosted a panel. She did This Week in MLS. I had nothing to do until we got here, so the least I can do is
Okay.
bring this. And you
She's
guys
so
rolled out the
thoughtful.
food last time, and that had me thinking
Yes,
that I
we
was
did.
hungry, so
I
I needed
guess
Dare I
it.
let it
in
go
there.
to waste?
I
Get
guess
in there.
you picked up some of that Southern hospitality.
Yes. They've trained me to be a little bit nicer in Atlanta.
Okay. Well, were you not nice prior to that?
You can always be nicer, right?
She's a New Yorker.
Yeah.
She's not nice. Just,
Yeah,
you know.
but I
Just
mean,
room
for-
for improvement.
For New Yorkers,
I prefer to be as forward as possible. And when I'm in the South, I find out that's not how they like to do things now.
Like,
I
can't-
smile like this.
I can't necessarily imagine Jillian Sakovits like bumping into someone in New York, being like, "Hey, I'm walking in here."
I would love
You
to
should
see
see
that.
me before I eat this.
If I haven't had my cheese, I'm a different woman.
I've seen
need
Jill
my-
hangry.
Hangry
Hangry. Hangry Jill is a different Jill.
Yeah, I'm the same way, bruh.
Aren't we all?
If I ain't got my coffee, everyone's getting it.
I'm not that way at all. I can be hungry for.
What happened to your voice all of a sudden?
I don't know what happened to my voice.
Oh, it was all like an echo.
That explains why you stay so slim, really.
Aw.
Because I hate food.
Yeah, he is. He's anti-food.
Food's the
And I
devil.
hate myself.
I love food and hate myself, so it all works out
So
perfectly.
what-
Self-love, guys.
Yeah.
Let's welcome
A
our
little too much in high school.
our
Am I
guest
right,
to the show. Welcome our guest to the show of Major League Soccer. Both of you work for Major League
Yes.
Soccer. We were just joking before you guys got here. You guys have like 18 jobs. You
Yeah.
have too many jobs.
Save one for
Save
one
one
of
for
us.
us.
Believe me, that's not the goal. You guys know.
We're tired.
Also, we're well aware that none of the folks that have hired you would ever consider hiring us.
You
So-
never know.
so
Never
just get
say
out.
never. Never say never, Alexis.
Careful what you wish for. Is that what you're
Exactly.
saying?
Exactly.
So introduce our guest, Alexis.
Ladies and gentlemen, unless you're driving, and if you are, pull over, put that joint on emergency lights, put that thing on lockdown.
Put your
'cause-
jewel down.
Yeah, hell yeah. Because you need both your hands free so you can put your hands together for the two, the only, Susannah Collins and Jillian Sakovits, everybody.
Welcome back. We're doing it. So last year we had brunch.
We need a name for
Yeah.
you guys. We're the Cooligans.
Oh,
You two should have-
so Rox Fontaine, who is one of the NYC
Very
SC
creative, too.
fans,
Yes.
he came up with Run JSC,
Yeah.
Run JSC.
and I kind of dig it. I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like it fits.
Yeah,
I like it.
feel-
Minus the C. We just don't have the C.
I know. Well, I'm.
But
C,
I
SC.
guess you can share the S, right?
Yeah.
So Susanna and Sakovits could
Yeah,
be.
exactly. And then
J-
C
and C
Collins.
is-
so
C
it's
is
kind
Collins,
of
so
like
it's
sort of
Yeah.
both.
The S is like the unifier.
Yeah,
if you will.
It is,
All right,
it is.
It's actually
Yeah.
not a bad one.
Okay, and it could be a nice little logo with the S's
But we're
intertwined.
we're open to suggestions.
Yeah. Give
What's
us
the
some.
Rooney Acosta one? I can never say it.
Lucharoo.
Lucharoo.
Lucharoo. So I
Yeah.
would love something along those lines, even though I heard people being like, it has to end. I was like, even though it's hard to say, I like that one.
What about
It's good.
Suzillian?
Suzillian.
Suzakovits.
Suzillian.
Suzakovits. Suzakovits sounds like a guy who only scores with headers. You know what I mean? Suzakovits got no skill with his foot
Big
whatsoever.
old center back.
Just a big Baltic.
It's perfect.
Could be an ancestor of ours. Mine.
True.
Seriously.
So how have you guys been since the last time you were on the show, right?
You guys are everywhere.
I know Jillian has been traveling a whole bunch. So have you.
Yeah.
Any particular things that come to mind since I think the last time you were here was around April or May, if I remember correctly.
So it's been about a year, and if it gives you any indication how much we've been traveling, we both are sharing our first Delta One upgrades as of late.
Okay.
Platinum status, baby.
We've talked about that a lot this
Yes,
week.
yes.
I see my
Oh.
scale going, and it's like only 48 billion points until you get to silver. And I'm like,
We were each other's biggest cheerleaders in this endeavor, like getting
Yeah,
that platinum
screenshotting
status.
our
It was
Delta.
like every
Really
flight.
sad.
It was
Yeah.
like we're almost there.
you
But
guys are
very
boarding
exciting.
first. This is amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But
I
things
just
have
wear
been
an
great.
army outfit, having never been in the armed forces.
Oh, wow.
Hey, let's see.
Oh,
right?
no,
Stolen
you
valor,
do
bro?
Stolen
not.
valor, bro. But I'm only going to my seat. You know what I mean?
Oh boy.
No comment from Suzanovitz.
I'll let the Susanna go first with what she's been up to because
Yeah, fill us in.
Golly. Man, I mean, it's just been since I've been pretty much all over the country. It's what the cool thing and also the exhausting part of my job is that I wear many hats at MLS. So during the playoffs, I was basically on the road the entire time, serving as an on-field reporter. So I was doing like more of the sideline stuff. But then I've been hosting the BTW show that Heineken is back on board for this season, which is very cool. And that's more of like the off-the-field kind of stories, fun featurey pieces with, I think we talked about my Schweinsteiger episode last
Little fashion
Yes,
show.
exactly. So all of that. And then on top of that, all the studio content that we're doing. So MLS has these brand new sparkly studios.
That's right.
And we've been doing big recap shows at the end of the weekend. So it's, you're, like I said, you're just wearing a ton of hats.
I have a particular question of something that when FC Cincinnati during the draft,
Yes.
the expansion draft, you had a great moment that I made a fun little clip of because you were speaking. I forgot his name, but the president of the team.
Yes.
And you went to you were congratulating him or something. You sort of raised your hand, and he gave you the weirdest.
Thought it was a high five.
Yeah.
It was like it was one of these and I do like by my own fault. Like I talk with my hands quite a bit, and I kind of like did one of these, and I think he thought that I was going for the high five. But I wasn't, and then I kind of saw him go in for the high five, and I didn't want to make him feel bad.
So now you gotta meet
then
him halfway.
I sort of compensated, and then the whole thing just looked like hideously awkward. And I was like, well, it's live. What can you do? And then Christian
was like, I'll show you what we could do.
I mean, like,
Oh, I missed this. I need
listen,
to see it.
like the eagle eyes of this one was just like, you're like, oh, that's chippable.
You know someone's watching though when they catch something like that.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we offer. But I think back
Yes.
to the league, we're
Thank
like,
you very
we're
much.
watching you. Any little silly thing you do,
We need you.
We're gonna put a magnifying glass on it. Trust me.
We have a skill. We're not sure if it's necessary.
Listen,
but that's the skill we provide.
keeps us honest.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
it.
if you can't laugh at yourself,
Yeah.
Who can you laugh at?
It wasn't a huge
It was pretty
controversy.
funny.
It was pretty
It
funny.
I
was
still can't wait to watch it.
As soon as the mics are up, we'll show you. But you've also you're on Extra Time.
Yep.
Which is different for a lot of people because they have like this like group of like interchanging 4 or 5 folks.
Yeah.
And now it's like all different. You're on all Thursday episodes?
Thursday episodes, yeah. So that's going to be
crazy.
my jam, and it's a little bit intimidating walking into the extra time meetings because these are guys that have been doing this for years,
Yeah,
and
for
it's
years.
and it's a very they're a very tight knit group, and let's be honest, they love to just nerd out
Yeah.
on MLS like big time.
And I'm going to say this. It needed some female energy.
Well, I mean, I
think.
don't disagree. I don't disagree. So that's when they approached me about coming on the show, I was like,
Obviously, they were nervous than I used to talking to girls.
Yeah.
and I'm a pretty.
By the way, that is not even a joke. If you've ever heard the show, I don't even think they know what a woman looks like. If you ask them to draw it, one of them would draw with a Star Trek logo first, and then build out from there.
Oh man, have you guys like been hiding in the studio at 11 o'clock at night when we're?
You're like, Matt, you just drew a cat with a bikini on.
Why are you drawing 7 of 9?
This is the thing. You're not far off. So I definitely felt there was a need for a female voice, but it's also really cool because, Jillian will attest to this. We so often are the ones asking the questions, and for me, this was such a cool opportunity to actually be a talking head and serve as an analyst because let's be honest, I have watched a ton of soccer in the last 4
And you have
years.
something to say
And
about
I
it.
do have something to say. So to be given a platform to give opinions and give some
great.
analysis, I think it's a really cool thing, and I'm super grateful to those guys for kind of letting me in their club. We did our first episode last week. It was so much fun, and I was a little bit nervous. I'm like, am I going to be able to hold my own with these guys? And then I
Yeah,
got
you
in
did.
there, and I was like, I got this.
Not only did you hold your own, I'll give you a compliment. For the first time in Extra Time history, someone didn't just meander around the point. You were asked a question,
boy, you are
and then I
on fire
heard you
today.
answer it. I was like, wait a minute. This isn't going to take 12 minutes of arguing? Or asking rhetorical questions? Susannah just answered it?
Well, gosh, that is the bane of our existence. Like, we ask the questions and we're like, will you get to the point,
Yeah,
please? So
you're
now,
holding the mic just like,
now
how
that
much
it's,
longer?
Now that the situation
Yeah,
has been flipped, I'm like, I will give you my direct answer.
Yeah, like I've
I'm
been
ready.
waiting a long time for this.
I have
and I
been.
know what it's like when someone has a really long answer.
100%.
But those guys are great.
They're great.
honestly. They're a lot
They're
of
the
fun,
best.
and so nice to us, and they can make fun of themselves, and they have a good
Totally.
time. And their wealth of knowledge is definitely something that I know helped me when I first started. And
Oh,
know
I listen.
Susannah
Yeah, I
feels
listen
the
to their
same way.
podcast. I mean, that's
Yes.
how I ingest a ton of my MLS knowledge.
Takes up the whole ride to JFK, pretty much.
Literally does.
Not anymore. Now it's just an hour, though.
I'm actually not
Literally.
used to hearing the word, soccer analyst and wealth in the same sentence. So it's really interesting.
America.
We're getting there.
So,
And Jillian, you've got so many other things going on. Last year you joined Atlanta United,
Yes.
and so far this year it has not started out the same way it ended.
you're the starting striker. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Replacing Almiron.
Yeah, you're also
Jillian
the E player,
Sakovits.
so
Yeah,
you got a lot to do now.
Me, pity, like. But so second year back, and we start for week 3. We'll start for their St. Patrick's Day game this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it's going to be really exciting, and I think we're going to get that first win.
You think so?
I am pretty positive.
You better hope so.
So let's at least talk about.
Yeah.
I know you've been watching the Champions League games, and that first Champions League game was obviously kind of a
Sure.
shock to a lot of people.
Yep.
And then, but they came back.
bounced back,
They
yes.
bounced back. But then a loss in the next
Yes.
round. It's been interesting because the season hadn't started yet, the MLS season yet. Atlanta United fans are just like, after the first loss, it's like, all right, who's this coach? What are we doing? Bring Tata back right now.
yeah. What's up with this 3-4-3? People are getting.
Yes,
People
they're
are
losing their
trying to take the
minds.
3s and the 4s out of everything.
Yep. They never want to hear about a 3 or 4 ever
If
again.
it's 3:43 and you say what time is it, they'll say it's 2 minutes to 3:45. They don't want to say it. Don't even want to say it.
So, what has been your response? Because especially since the draw against Cincinnati, what has been your response and your feeling to this shock and of the response from Atlanta United fans to Frank de Boer?
I think, and like she's looking at me like,
Yeah, I wonder what you're gonna say.
What you gonna say?
because this is the first time really we've ever had to defend the team. It was just nonstop flying soccer last year, and that's what Tata was brought in for, right? Like
Yeah.
attractive, fast, scoring soccer, and we are gonna get there. And it was on Tuesday that Frank said, "Listen, I didn't mean spoiled, spoiled." And when you heard him say it in the post-game press conference, you saw what he meant. He meant more like, "Hey, you guys aren't really used to losing."
Yes.
He didn't mean you are spoiled brats who deserve to lose.
Right.
So, and it also, I know my first few months in Atlanta, I was nervous. It's an intimidating fan base. It's an intimidating team. You're working with Dan and Kevin, the 2 best in the biz, even though they never really intimidated me.
Shouts to Dan.
But he's in a brand new city, so he gets up there and he just has to kind of say it in his second, third, fourth language. I don't know what it is with him with English. And you got to give the guy a break. It's a long MLS season. We're going to get there. Just have faith. And I think we could be seeing things switched up. Maybe not for CCL, but maybe at least for MLS this weekend.
Yeah, that's that's the thing. Gauging how angry, I think this is how other MLS fans they see Atlanta United fans imploding, and they're like, yes, they're like, this is beautiful, right? Because they sort of felt
It is March, people.
I know.
Don't you want to just sometimes scream
Yes.
that? Also, they don't have the best Newcastle player on their team. The guy who's the best player on Newcastle right now is no longer on their squad. I think Tata would have had some struggles as well. Maybe not as bad. Maybe it would have had it been a little different. But he also would have had to make some changes
And
as
give
well.
pity sometime too. Like they're all figuring it out. They're gonna get there, but it's a long MLS season, and I don't think in any way our Atlanta fans are spoiled. I think though that this is new, having a rough start, but they're also playing an insane
They
amount
also
of
lost 4-0 to
insane
Houston the first game
amount
last
of games.
year.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And they had their struggles in season 1. They still made the playoffs, which was amazing. But it is an MLS season. Like anything
lot
can
of it.
happen. Think
Yeah.
about Seattle when
so
they won.
much soccer.
Worst team in the league in July. They get this guy, Nico Ladero at the time. They get rid of Ziggy Schmidt. Then they win MLS Cup. Like, you cannot take what's happening in March and think that it's going to mean anything around the playoffs.
all right.
There's a lot.
So that's me
100%
sticking up
agree.
for Frank,
What-
but also
yeah.
saying hey to
It's
hey to the fans out there. Don't be mad at me.
What's up, guys? We love you. Definitely not spoiled.
It's like how high
No.
should the expectation be to do well in CCL? Because I think
Yeah.
I think MLS fans in general thought Atlanta United would probably have
It's
a
hard.
good old time.
Can I just say something about CCL?
Go for it.
It's always going to be so hard for MLS teams to succeed.
It's the time
in
of
this.
year.
It's a time of year. It's impossible. And as we were just talking about, a team like Atlanta who loses their head coach, who loses their best player, it's not magically going to come together. You don't just wave a wand and you have the exact same product that you have last year.
No.
You also have had an off season to deal with. You have guys getting back to fitness. These are teams, think about like Liga MX. These guys have been playing together they've got like weeks and weeks of soccer under their belt. It's just not, for me, CCL has never been an even playing field for MLS teams. And therefore
Exactly.
it's for them to do what we saw Toronto do getting to the final is insane.
Yeah.
But then you also see sort of the repercussions of that for them in MLS. So it's almost, I don't want to say it's a choice, but it's almost like you sort of have to, it's this fine line that I don't think anybody has really figured out how to balance yet.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's a preseason
it's really
tournament
difficult.
for one of the teams.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's really tough.
And had they had their exact same team from last year with Tata, maybe all the pieces would be in place
Sure.
to grind it out. Last week, they had 3 games in 7 days, which included a flight to and from Mexico. So, cut them a little bit of a break. I think, to Susannah's point, it is going to be a little bit of a choice. We'll see if they can kind of dig themselves out of the CCL hole in the second leg. But all is not lost. I know Atlanta United, a big thing for them is doing well in Champions League, but all is not lost should this not work out how they want to. They've all had like 2 months together. Frank got there in the middle of January, and it's not even 2 months
Everybody
later.
brings up the travel, and I have a solution.
Tell me.
Because when I was a kid, I traveled a lot, sometimes to South America, and here's what my mother would do: a little Benadryl, my chocolate milk. You know what I mean? You would sleep. Okay?
Might I also recommend a Delta
And don't
One
tell them.
a Delta One upgrade where the seats turn into beds magically and they give you a down blanket and you can just fall asleep like
And
a little baby.
headphones.
You
It's
just
glorious.
You just let him eat cake. Is what you're saying right now. But that's what I said. Why can't we just like drug them so they sleep on the plane?
It's like animals, really. It's
Not far off.
Go to bed, PT.
Yeah. Have this risotto. There's something crunchy in here. No, there isn't. That is just risotto.
I heard you guys talking about Sporting KC
Yes, we
earlier,
did.
and that's I do think that if there is one team that I have faith in to get through the quarterfinals is Sporting Kansas City. I think it was big for them to get the goal on the road, and I'm Peter Vermees is such a tactician.
He's amazing.
He's so smart, and I have a lot of faith that they will be able to get a very favorable result. They're the one team that I really see.
They seem like they're
emerging.
also built specifically to play some of these teams.
Yes.
They have like toughness and a strength and speed at almost every level.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like not one position where I look at them and go, even Nemeth, who I've always wondered, could he be a striker?
He's thriving.
He looks insane
He's
when he plays
thriving
the
in
game.
that system.
Yeah.
And everybody got after Peter Vermees. Why didn't you go after the number 9 in the offseason? You need that big name DP
He's
striker.
cultivating that in Kansas City.
Well, they got Gideon Zalalem
They
just
just
Yeah.
got Salalem.
so he's
Big Arsenal fan. I remember when I saw him in the preseason tournament in Malaysia. He was just pinging balls.
You
at Theo
traveled to
Walcott.
Malaysia? You went to Malaysia?
I was there. Wasn't allowed to go.
Took Benadryl and then went to Malaysia.
I woke up in Malaysia. Turns out I took it too early, got on the wrong plane.
Sounds like the plot to like Hangover 4.
Yeah. I missed the vacation with my wife, but I got to see 16-year-old Jillian Sakovits. But I was just like amazed. I looked him up, and when I saw that he was American, I was like, I nearly fell off my computer chair. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. So the
Yay.
fact that he's back, had a bit of a struggle. How do you guys think he's going to do in it? You guys know Peter Vermees a little bit better than we do. Do you think he's going to get him going quickly? He's going to make him go through the system a bit? What do you think is going to happen next for someone like Jillian?
Honestly, I think Peter Vermees can be a very intimidating guy, and you just like through different players, past and present, you either respond well to him or you don't, because he puts a lot of pressure on his players. And so, like for a guy like Christian Nemeth, he basically said, like, here, this is your chance, man. Like, you perform or
Right.
it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going to work out. And he has
And he did.
stepped up
Look
and
at
risen
last
to the
playoffs,
occasion.
yeah.
So I think that he's more of like a tough love kind of manager. He's not going to coddle you. So it totally depends on his willingness to sort of adhere to the Peter Vermees way of
Peter from New
coaching.
Jersey?
I think he is.
He
yeah.
acts like
So
it.
exactly, like
Yeah.
once you know that about him, it just makes a ton of sense.
I mean, but he also does an incredible job of inspiring his guys. Players want to do well for him, not so much out of fear, but maybe just a little bit
You
out of
need
fear.
that.
I just
It's
want to
like-
I just want to hear Dad say he loves me.
Yeah.
You know?
It's that
He'll tell
toughest
you.
teacher syndrome.
Totally.
Your toughest teacher was your favorite by the end of high school.
Yep. Well, they
because
make
you're
you
always
better.
fighting for their, validation or their.
Not for
their
me. I hated my tough teachers.
love. Did you?
Spent a lot of time crying at home, to be honest.
Yeah. You also worked hard. You were
But
like an
look
honor
at you
student.
now. Look at you now.
My toughest teacher was the one who was like, "I'm not going to call the cops this time, but one more time, Alexis."
So Jillian, we were talking about traveling, and so you did a couple pieces, and you were traveling to internationally.
Yeah.
And I follow you on Instagram, and I'm like, and I would see you were on all these different beaches playing soccer and talking to people, and I'm like, all right, what's she doing? Her life is a
I
little
just went to the
too
beach.
nice.
No, it was great. So we really pushed for it. The last few years, we've done Beyond the Stands. First year, we featured the supporters and like what they do when they are not in the stands,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, it was like a Habitat for Humanity
yeah,
and stuff. It was
really
really
cool
cool.
Community outreach.
Yeah.
Building homes for homeless people, revamping foster care, visitation centers, really cool stuff. Then the last 2 years, we've shifted it to the players. And some players do really amazing stuff in the off season, but it is so hard to capture it because until now, our off season was so short. Between
Yeah.
MLS Cup and preseason, there's like 6 weeks.
Right.
So by the time someone goes home and says hi to their family, celebrates a holiday, they don't have time for
Exactly.
us. But we did get 2 really lovely guys who did have time for us. Albert Elise in Houston.
Okay.
That was in Honduras, and that was amazing. His dad drove us around for 2 days. He was basically our babysitter, and we saw everything that he did at the elementary school that he went to.
That's awesome.
These kids, so we're like, oh, they're donating a technology center. So I think something, like this. It was just an empty room, and these kids hadn't had computers there since 2015. So you're talking about 10 and 12-year-old kids who have literally said, I've never typed on a keyboard before.
Wow.
And then you want them to graduate and get a job, but they need to know how to use a computer. So Albert
But did
sent
they
like,
mainly have just like iPad 2s? Is that
no,
really
Yeah.
what the
no
struggle is?
iPads,
Those
no
ones
iPads.
with like those big cushion cartoon things around them.
Believe it or not, no iPads
Okay,
around
okay.
around those parts either. But what was cool about Albert is like he went back there and he just brought a truck of computers, a printer, projector, all that stuff.
Beautiful.
And
So
then
cool.
after the new year, Jonathan Mensah of Columbus let us crash his honeymoon
Whoa.
in his native country of Ghana. He gets
Wow.
married, and I say, oh, so this is like the week we can come. And he's like, no problem. And I'm like, then I kind of get to digging, I'm like, hey, didn't you get married this weekend? And he was like, yeah, but there's no better way to celebrate. And his wife's like, it's true. And I'm like, are you guys saints?
If my wife said that during our honeymoon, her teeth would
halo
have been
immersion.
perfectly tight together. Like, yeah, it's true.
And those are all, Jonathan's will be coming out at the end of the month, and then Albert's will be coming out a few weeks
And
later.
you're coming on This Week in MLS to
Yes.
promote the Jonathan Mensah episode, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
be on in a couple weeks. So
All right.
I did a little bit of
Yes.
that. I'll keep doing those features for MLS, filling in on the studio and on the road when I don't have an Atlanta United game.
I'm curious.
That's my year.
What was your experience
great.
like being like specifically Honduras? What was that like for you? I don't think you speak Spanish unless I'm wrong.
Have you ever been to Honduras before?
No, I've never been to Central America before. I speak enough Spanish to get by, but definitely not to translate for Tata Martino or talk soccer.
Yeah.
But we brought in a fantastic translator with us from Houston's PR team, this girl Maricela, who was great, and she was wonderful. But it is a country that's going through a lot with the caravan was going on at that
Yeah,
time and
yeah.
everything like that. So I was a little nervous to go because you hear about all of it. And then as soon as I got off the airport and I saw Albert and his big smiley dad, and he just looks at me, he goes, it's not dangerous here. And I'm like, was that written on my face somehow? Or maybe they see what we see in the news.
Fear.
Yeah.
But, going to a country where
Well, you were ducking and rolling behind cars as you were getting to them.
but it was so amazing to go into these these schools that really have nothing, these neighborhoods that really have nothing, and the reception that we got from the people was fantastic, and I would go back in a heartbeat. It was so
That's great.
it was such a lovely place with such nice people.
Yeah,
I think
it's
people
awesome.
make the joke about, MLS salaries, and you don't realize how much some of this money means to where they're coming from.
Oh my gosh.
And I've heard that in the past that, yes, we have motivated athletes, but for some of these guys that are changing their family's life. They're buying their family a vacation home and an apartment in a nice part of the city, and they are changing the school that they went to. They're a little bit more motivated because of what they can do with that salary that we might say, oh, it's not enough at times. But for some people, it's everything.
Yeah, I mean, even when I think of like my parents, and my mom still sends money back to my family in Dominican Republic because that it's basically what they survive on, right? And I mean, I don't know why my mom didn't get an MLS contract, but maybe one day. I mean, she can go for duels, right? For aerial battle.
She'll 2-foot you. I know that.
But it is, I think that it's a good point to highlight where it's more than just another athlete playing a game. It's like, or even an American athlete playing a game they don't have that same sense of like responsibility and urgency for the people back home.
Albert, Jonathan, they are like directly, and it's not like money that they put towards starting a foundation, then they ask for donations. Like their charities are not there yet. This is their paycheck that they are helping their own families out with, but then also like dozens, if not hundreds of kids with their own money.
Well, I love this.
Amazing.
I love it so much too because these are stories that we wouldn't hear, you know?
Exactly.
And I think that to be able to shine a light on some of the incredible things that these guys are doing, it makes me cheer for them more. As players. And I think especially as we think about like growing our fan base and what we can do to attract more fans, it's telling these stories and showing that, you know, this matters to these guys. And I just think it's really cool that Jill has sort of championed this series and
it's
has
not
done
just
really well with it.
It's not just me. I had the idea, but obviously flying to Africa and places like that are very expensive endeavors. So it's all props really to the sponsor Wells Fargo and to MLS for being like, go. Because in this day and age, which budget cuts everywhere, it's hard to find a place that will get behind a project like this.
Yeah, shouts to the plug, too. You just out here plugging your sponsor on our show. All right.
No, but
Because I love that.
You're going to see Landon Donovan with a scarf that says, my other team is Ghana.
Yeah.
They had me sold.
Wells Fargo. It's so cool to see because, like, honestly, if I played on MLS and you wanted to follow me, it would be me handing out headshots at the high school I went to. Like, you're welcome for going to your school and making your school worth something.
No, that's Kaylin Carr.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Have you heard of the movement? Kid?
Kaylin Carr's like,
Have
I'm
you
going
heard of the movement?
Kids, stay right there. I'm
kidding. I
going to
love
walk
Kaylin.
to you in 120 frames per second.
But no, I was doing another comedian's podcast. It's got Alex Barnett, great dude. And he was asking me about the podcast and soccer, and like in the comedy world, other comedians are like, "Yo, what are you guys doing? It seems like a lot seems to be going on." And I find that the thing that is at least inspiring or motivating for me is that it does feel that the connection that I build, we were just talking about supporters groups and talking about, you meet all these people that are so committed to the sport and committed to that growing the soccer in their community. And it's like that in itself is like feels like, oh, I want to help in any way I can. I want to shine
and
light.
they deserve the light that like so rarely like some of these people get. You know, a lot of these people are stories we're going to have coming up this year, you'll see a lot of people are volunteering their time, and like they deserve a spotlight, and I'm happy we're able to give it to them.
And how do we feel about the next couple years, the 5-year plan of Major League Soccer, right? You guys are been with the league a while, a couple new teams.
Yeah, that's right. You have to answer for the league now.
I'll let Susannah start that.
David Beckham statue that you got to interview.
Oh, heck yes.
You got to interview the statue? That's so dope.
I mean, better than the real thing, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
Maybe more personality.
I think the statue has a deeper voice.
The one time I actually did interview David Beckham was at the Miami announcement last year, and I kid you not, I don't remember a word that came out of my mouth because I was just so mesmerized.
You don't remember when you yelled, "I love you"?
I could have said anything, and like I would, because I truly think I blacked out.
I did see him once, and I
blacked
yelled
out.
out, "Call me Smash Spice." I just want to be with you.
What'd he say?
He winked.
Of course he did.
Honestly.
And so the fact that these new teams, Cincinnati's here, Nashville's coming, Miami, what do you see as the future of Major League Soccer or just soccer in the sport? If you can give some kind of synopsis.
Soccer is everywhere. It's growing. No, it is. I mean, it's really, really exciting. And the coolest thing for me is having been to the announcement in Cincinnati, the announcement in Nashville. Like these are two cities that already have a crazy fan base in place. I mean, it's already there, and so this soccer culture is only going to grow.
The announcement of new teams always feels like a gender reveal. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, they're always exciting.
Yeah,
right?
no, it is, and there's so much energy behind it. And what's really cool is that Nashville it's a great sports town, and they are very passionate. We've seen all the success that the Preds have had, the Titans. Like people really rally around their sports teams, and so I think it's going to be exactly the same in Nashville. I love that it's going to be in that part of the country, and I'm going to throw Cincinnati in there as well, because I think like what's going to happen is it's going to create these really kind of cool rivalries that with Atlanta and Miami and Florida and that sort of like Southwest region, and it's only good for the game. It's only going to get more eyes on it, and that's a region in particular where at the collegiate level it's been super successful, but they haven't had really, professional teams
Not
to
a lot of
cheer
pro
for.
sports out there.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think it's gonna kind of put a lot of eyeballs, a lot of those like SEC country and like the college football people are gonna be like, oh, the soccer thing's pretty cool.
Yeah, instead
let's
of,
hop
like,
on
roll
board.
Tide, I'll be like, go Nash. I know.
Yeah.
Go Nash.
But that's been one of the neat things because this is gonna be my fourth season with the league, and so in that time, I've been
a senior.
I've been basically. But I've been at pretty much every expansion announcement that we've done in that time. And so the more eyes on the sport, the better. And I've only seen, our numbers, like viewership is up every year. It's really exciting. Yeah. And you kind of, in like a very small sort of insignificant way, it's like, oh, I feel like I'm kind of part of something. Well, I'm part of a movement. Sorry, Kaylin Carr, I just stole your
But
your word.
I just add, and maybe you can add to the answer you're about to give about you guys. I feel like you guys are now more, and maybe this is a sign of the popularity of the sport and the league, that I feel like you guys are becoming these celebrities, especially maybe regional, maybe more like.
Does it feel that way to you?
Delta 1? Yeah.
But especially Jillian, and being in Atlanta,
Sure.
We're still on Southwest 83. That's our.
But if you're
Just the other day, I got stopped going into the MLS party. They're like, "Who are you?" And I was like,
that's a good sign.
and
though.
I was like,
You're somebody,
and I
right?
like got nervous for a second. I was like, "Can
Do I
get in?"
belong
And
here?
I
You had
told
an
her, I was like,
existential
I
crisis?
got stepped at this door.
Who am I?
No, but to your point, to Susannah's point about soccer in the Southeast, she's surprised I said it.
That was amazing.
When I first started, it was Decision Day 2015. Timbers were on the bubble of making the postseason. They go on to win MLS Cup that year. So I was spoiled, not to use the word, but I was, with what MLS and soccer was. I was like, I started at Providence Park. And then the next day, I went up to Seattle, had a game there. And then it was Vancouver, Portland.
The Mecca.
Yeah, so I got that taste of the Pacific Northwest. So I think building up our regions, like Susannah was talking about now, soccer in the Southeast, and then we're going to have these little rivalries with Atlanta, Nashville, Orlando, that stuff. It's only going to make the sport grow and grow and grow because it gives the people something that they already have to just cheer on for more. Right. And it's really exciting, and I think our 5-year plan makes me hope that I am here for another 5 years.
Yeah.
Nashville's a lot like Atlanta, too, where it's like a very transplant city right now. They have they said it's 20,000 people a month that are moving to Nashville.
No one's from, I shouldn't say that. Not no one's from Atlanta in Atlanta. You got some people that are diehards, born and raised, but you get so many people that are new there, and they're just looking for something to be a part of.
And that's what Atlanta United was for them. So hopefully Nashville,
Atlanta United.
SC is that.
So I had two.
Although, they're a good fan base because they still love the team, even though they have that terrible, terrible badge. Oh, God.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Not a fan, though?
Alexis is
No.
very into aesthetics.
Oh no,
and
yes,
badges.
I am too.
I'm not as obsessed with it. It's fine to me.
I actually didn't mind the one that they had previously.
dope. I
like
It was
the
the
one that they
guitar strings. Like I thought
Yeah.
it just like fit. Music City, all of that.
This
And
one looks like if you press it, like it'll tell you the best CrossFit gyms to go,
Which also isn't such a bad thing.
So I had two other things I want to ask before we wrap up.
Yes.
So last year, I believe this happened after you were on the show, but you had done all female panel about soccer, right?
It was great.
And that was awesome.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask about that and what that sort of meant for you. And also, maybe we can also talk about the lawsuit with the U.S. Women's National Team against U.S. Soccer, and just thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, so the Women in Soccer Roundtable was a labor of love. It was something that I had tried to get off the table the year before.
For so long.
We got close and then kind of ran out of time. And honestly, we were very specific about the people that we wanted to get on the panel. So we were finally able to bring everybody together. And Yael Averbush was on, Katie Witham, Vera from Atlanta, and no, Danielle was not, but Kay Rollins from Orlando.
My bad.
Who tweeted at us? Kay Rollins. She was great.
And Kay is a gem. I mean, and just honestly, like a table of rock star ladies that were there. And it was such a gratifying experience to hear about, these are women that I respect. They're all doing very different things, but so passionate about soccer and so passionate about growing the game, and just kind of this solidarity of, we exist in a very male-dominated world, and the fact that all of us are kind of thriving and have gotten to a certain place, and sharing those experiences and the challenges that we've had to face, it's so inspiring, and it continues to be inspiring. And the part that really, I mean, I get like choked up when I think about it. Our dear friend Katie Witham, who just had her first baby.
That's great.
And is back on the sidelines this weekend.
Back on the sidelines this weekend.
Congrats.
Only a 2-week break for her.
But she talked about the decision to tell her bosses that she was pregnant, and how hard that was, and how she was really terrified to tell people at Fox that she was pregnant because she was afraid it was going. And it's 2018, and the fact that she was willing to go on camera and talk about those fears, I think opening up the door to that conversation is so important, because the men that I've talked to about that conversation, they're like, oh my gosh, it's very eye-opening. And so I think that the more that we can talk about these things and these issues that we face, the better. And so it was just such a lovely day. We all kind of walked away from that feeling so inspired by each other and wanting to talk about it more. It was like, I feel like we just scratched the surface of what we want to talk about. So I'm hopeful that we're going to do more of those, and just kind of like continue to open people's eyes.
And I have to say, Susannah says, we had a rock star panel. This was a rock star facilitator, because just the way that you handled them and the questions you dove into, it wasn't all about just being women. It was also celebrating just their awesome success.
Yeah.
And you did such a good job
thank you,
with
Jill.
that.
I think the toughest part of any time you do something like that is the balance between, aren't we great for having done what we've done, or because we're women, or we're just all really good at what we do, and the fact that we're women is this other sort of filter.
And not being
that we had to deal
apologetic
with.
about that.
Exactly. And I think that's why I love what you were able to do, to back up what Jillian Sakovits just said. What you were able to do is say, no, we're going to have a conversation with successful people, and we're going to talk about the fact that we also had to be women while getting there.
Oh,
you know what I
thank
mean?
you.
And to
I
me,
have
I think
goosebumps.
what I love about that is, I was raised by women, married woman, and sometimes I hear conversations my entire life, and I'm like, why is that a problem? Just go do what you want. It's hard for me to sort of understand, because I just go do whatever I want. You hear me? I say whatever I want. I do whatever I want. It's worked out sometimes.
It's worked out for you guys pretty well, doing whatever you want.
But I think it's sometimes when we met a female soccer player when we were doing a commercial, and we were like, dude, why'd you quit? Why'd you become a comedian? And she's like, I was making $50 a week in Mexico living with a family I never heard. I'm like, why is no one talking about that? And you give the idea to someone who's like, look, here's your playing career. If it doesn't work out, some people are like, man, maybe I'll go into marketing. Maybe I'll go do this. Why don't you go become an executive? Get in the front office.
Yeah.
Go do these other things. Go become a silent reporter. Oh, we don't get those jobs. Nah, you go get that job. Go ahead and do what you want. And to me, watching that video was like, all right, look, these are people who were just like, nah, I'm going to go do what I'm supposed to go do.
Yep.
I'm not going to let somebody tell me what to do.
And you know that there's young girls watching, seeing that, and they're like, at least somebody's going to be inspired.
And
that's what you hope for.
That was one of the most gratifying parts of it too, was hearing from people on Twitter reaching out, or on Instagram, young girls who are in high school or college, and saying thank you for opening the doors to those conversations. Like it was just meant so much to me.
It's like a little different for us because we had Ali Krieger on the show.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks
she
ago.
is awesome.
The greatest, funniest interview we've ever
Really
had.
funny.
She was awesome.
She is the best.
I love her. I have such a girl crush on her.
When we talked about having her, we interviewed her, and then we were going to put out the interview a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
We had young girls tweeting at us like, "Hey, when are you going to put this damn Ali Krieger interview out?"
They're like keeping you guys honest. Like, why aren't you editing that?
Yes.
Where's Allie?
We had
want
like
Allie.
5 interviews. We were trying to do one a week, and we're like, fine, we'll move it up. We've never had teenage girls tweet at us.
Don't mess with
It was very
teenage
intimidating.
girls. Don't mess.
And all their AVIs are like them 2-footing somebody. I'm like, I don't want to mess with any of these defenders.
So,
That's amazing.
So with that said, the lawsuit, which is obviously happened very recently, but I think it at least raises the point about equal pay. About the I think this is another kind of turning point for women's sports and maybe women's soccer in general. The women's national team, I think it's gone to court. They went that far so that they could get all the information, right? Because all we ever hear is the ratings are not as good, or it doesn't bring in as much revenue.
They don't bring in as much money as the men. It was
Right.
the
Yeah, and it's not as
other.
apparently I guess it's not as transparent as that. It's like we can't just believe that without actually seeing the sort of evidence in front of us. But as far as the case being brought, who knows if it actually goes to trial? But the fact that the case happening, what do you think?
And all the
will
women
do?
banded together and put
Yeah,
their
yeah.
names on it. That's really big.
Yeah. So what do you think it will do for the sport and for women's sports going forward?
I mean, this was a question that I asked Yael actually during our women's roundtable, and you just want your fair share. You just want to be seen as equals, and so I mean, I will always stand with women. I will always fight for equality in every sense, and so they are certainly absolutely in the right to bring this case up. I wish I could read through all the legal jargon and actually understand it, because as you say,
We'll get
some
my
of this
sister.
stuff.
We were talking about it with her the other
exactly.
night when we were out.
I mean, it's very, very complicated stuff, but
Sakovits.
Is she a lawyer? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
sorry. You're
the-
just picking up your sister on our podcast. She's a good reader. You know what I mean?
She listens to a lot of true crime podcasts, so
Yeah.
she
But
knows.
she watches First 48 every day. So I
But
feel like she's ready.
Because we were
love-
just all talking about it, the three of
Yeah.
us, because we were out.
And my love for the U.S. women's national team is so high.
Yeah.
I want them to do well. I want them to go to Paris this year, just kick serious ass. But can I say ass on this story?
Oh.
Okay, good.
That might be the lightest thing
Okay,
we've said.
good. You just never know.
Yeah.
But I think as women, you're always a win for them is a win for all of us.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
that's kind of how I feel about
If
it.
it starts at the top with something like names and people like
Yeah.
this, just in walking here, there's that huge billboard of the two of them, that huge Nike billboard
Yeah.
with the women's national team. If it starts with people like that, then it helps validate feelings that we might have at times with our own battles and our own struggles. And hey, that this is the U.S., so that's the beauty of our legal system, that they have the right to bring this forth and for the information to be out there, and then the professionals will be the ones to make the final decision. But it's their right.
Yeah, I'm generally excited to see how this pans out and what we learn.
Yes.
Because when we were talking to Ali Krieger, we were talking to Yael, a big topic that comes up, especially for female athletes, is especially if they're successful, that it's not only about being good at soccer, but it's also like sponsorship, looking good, having to have all these other pressures.
You got to be an Instagram model as well if you want to make money. It's like there's so many different layers.
And
that
I
they have to
like
go
that
through.
this is just about the work, and soccer,
The product on the field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I
And
think
it's been darn good.
exactly.
And we referenced this before, but Carly Lloyd from Jersey was asked, "Do you think you should be paid as much as men?" She's like, "Hell yeah, we win more." To paraphrase it, but I'm like, Carly Lloyd, get it?
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, duh.
All right, so I think we'll wrap there, and we'll see where it goes, and maybe we'll do this again next year. We'll just have brunch at least once a year, maybe.
I love this.
Next year we
Great.
have to get, then the following year you guys get. Just
Okay,
like this.
I love it.
Where could the fans follow you guys?
You can follow us on our social media channels. I'm Susannah Collins on Instagram and Twitter. And
Jillian Sakovits at Instagram and Twitter.
And go
Very
to
easy.
MLSsoccer.com for all your wonderful MLS-related content. Jill and I are featured quite heavily.
That's
it's a
right.
great thing.
On Thursdays on Extra Time, look at all the Atlanta United stuff that Jillian's going to be putting out. This was a lot of fun.
We usually wrap the show. You've seen usually the end of the show. We yell Cooligans at the screen.
Yep.
So we will do that. So for Jillian Sakovits, for Susannah Collins, my name is Christian Polanco.
And I'm Alexis Guerrero.
And together, what are we?
the Cooligans!
What's up? It's the world champion, Judah Friedlander, and you're watching the Cooligans. Why? Because you're cool. This is what winners look like right here, man.
I mean, you're looking at us.
Right now with my legs, I just juggled the ball 80,000 times.
You missed it.
Yeah.
He's been playing keepy uppy since I met him.
Yep, look faster, guys.
Go Team USA.